today. So if you haven't been able to catch us live, you'll be able to catch it another time. So thank you so much. And right now I'm going to turn it over to Mel so she can talk to you about all of the fun astrology that's happening here and how that might, you know, work in your lives.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Astro Insights. I am your host, Melrose. Today is Sunday, February 1, 2026. Today is the full moon in Leo, and this week we have Imbolc all week, which is that midpoint between winter solstice and spring equinox. So we are halfway there, friends. This week, also, Uranus is going to station direct in Taurus, so it's going to pull some attention, those changes and that reliability or lack thereof of material resources for us is still playing havoc with us a little bit. And then Mercury is going to move on into Pisces from Aquarius this week. But first of all, friends, let's get a picture of things as they are, because my friends, it is not like it was before, okay? It's not just that something has changed, because everything is changing all the time, of course, but it is that we are undergoing a transformation together. This is about the whole wide world waking up from the confusion and corruption of the last 20 years and saying, we can see clearly now, the fog is lifting. It is so wonderful to be here. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Astro Insights. I'm your host, Melrose, and this is our weekly preview of the week ahead in astrology. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do. We would be so happy to reach 1,000 subscribers today. And if there was ever a time for us to be observing the skies as we watch the events play out here on Earth, this is it, my friends. Here's the context. Neptune just moved into Aries 7 days ago for the first time since the beginning of the United States Civil War. And if you pay attention to national events, you probably can see that we are revisiting those themes in the style of an entirely new generation of people trying to address a very old set of systemic traits that involve separating people by their apparent caste in society and then policing them literally into the ground. Conflict is all around us. We have waited, if you've waited, we have waited too long now to stand up for ourselves and our fellow human beings. And it's time to get fired up and do something to establish a new path that's based on compassion and collective uplift. Here's another piece of context. Fully 5 planets are currently in Aquarius. 4 of them are personal planets, the Sun, Mercury, Mars, and Venus, having just bumped into Pluto for some really intense conversations about what has already changed, what there is no going back on. No doubt we are noticing a fundamental shift in our focus, both individually and as a collective. Systems that are dysfunctional are fully exposed at this time. It's our best opportunity, not just to see the mess of corruption we face, but to fight for the principles. It's our opportunity to fight for the principles of community and humanity. For surely, what is in one person's best interest is likely to be in most people's best interest. And what is truly good for humanity will be good for life on Earth in general. So the shift we're undergoing is more than about Neptune entering Aries. It includes Pluto being in Aquarius, but it also includes a similar kind of change for all of the outer planets this year, which in astrological time is like that. From an Aquarian style, big picture outlook, the shift we are currently making is from water and earth over to fire and air element vibrations. Water and earth work together. Think of clay. It's just like mud. With water and earth, you can build things up, material stuff. You can grow a garden or a business or a family or an empire. But also with water and earth, there's always the danger that things will dissolve. There's a danger of flooding. Too much water comes into the picture and solid things start to fall apart. And that is the vibe we have been in lately. That's the old vibe. And we've been here for years and years. Earth and water, clay, mud, wall, flood, repeat. The new vibe, the one that we're just now beginning to experience is made of different elements entirely. The next several years will bring an influence to our collective experience that is decidedly more air and fire, meaning leaning more into a rational way than an emotional way of being, valuing action more than safety, finding security in being flexible, prepared, and capable of responding to various situations. Fire and air working together, plan, action, transformation, observation, repeat. And the part of that shift we're feeling the most right now is this shift of Neptune into Aries for the next 13 years or so. Aries is the cardinal fire sign, and Neptune is the collective consciousness. Our ideas, our collective ideas about spirituality and consciousness are beginning to shift. We feel less confused, we feel less lost at sea, and collectively more clear. The things that, let's see, we're more clear, like, it's like our illusions are being burned away. The things that we're willing to fight for require our active participation right now, friends. Furthermore, the season is changing. This week is Imbolc, which is the Earth's midpoint in space and time between winter solstice and spring equinox. So while the weather has been wildly wintry for a lot of us, we can celebrate with certainty that spring will come, the sun will shine some more, the flowers will bloom, and we will not have to live out the whole year under these dangerously cold conditions. Which brings me to today, the full moon in Leo. This is where we see the culmination of our efforts to show leadership and to take the lead on those things that we consider to be our responsibility. Leo is ruled by the sun, and the sun shines on everyone. The full moon in Leo invites us to show up for this celebration in fiery, glowing, active style. Under this full moon, we seek to radiate warmth, power, and energy, and to celebrate the successes we have found where we took charge of things that were ours to take care of. Of course, taking the lead means first being in charge of yourself, and the moon is about one's private experience. So self-mastery comes in here in terms of having confidence that you know when to act and when to wait. Having that confidence is the work of a lifetime, friends, and it happens through constant, repeated effort. It's not something we get to put aside. Either way, look back on your efforts in recent weeks and celebrate your successes. The full moon is a culmination, after all, a moment of bright clarity to look back on previous weeks and celebrate what you've managed to do, what you've managed to achieve by the grace of the sun and moon. The full moon is also a turning point. With this celebration, we take a break from building in order to relax and reflect. And in just a few days, it'll be time to start clearing out the old and making room for another creative push. Okay, so with all of that context, let's talk about the week ahead. Tomorrow is Monday, February 2nd. Mercury and Chiron are having a supportive conversation in the evening, and a little later, the moon will move on into Virgo. Mercury's talk with Chiron is like giving yourself a pep talk when you know you can do better, or even calling in support or making a plan for improvement. These planets are speaking from Aquarius and Aries, so there's a very progressive vibe here, and I'd say many of us are feeling a desire to act collaboratively for collective improvement, but also, don't be afraid to hit up your collaborators when it's self-improvement that you're seeking. And when the moon moves into Virgo, our personal life focus shifts from Leo themes of vitality and personal power to Virgo themes of holistic order. That's tomorrow night. Tuesday and Wednesday are especially good days for work that involves editing, sorting, weeding the garden, and putting things in their places. If I could see my garden under the snow, I might try to weed it. On Tuesday, Uranus pulls focus by stationing direct at the end of Taurus, where it has been for several years. Now, Uranus is our agent of seemingly erratic change. You just never know what's going to happen. And it's been traveling in Taurus, our sign for evident shake-ups at different times and for different reasons in our ability to access the regular things we need to feel as though we have physical and material stability. Deliveries were made that were never ordered, or items were ordered that were never delivered, and a million changes and delays that played a serious role in our lives over the past several years right down to the fluctuation and rising prices for food and other necessities that we experience today. A lot has truly changed and been in fluctuation where it comes to our ability to access resources since 2018. And also concerning just where our stuff comes from and how we get it. And I expect that subject to get some attention this week as well, since Uranus is stationary and grabbing our attention for its last several weeks in Taurus. In April, it's going to move on into Gemini finally. Then on Wednesday, the 4th, Venus and Chiron have a supportive conversation. But much like the talk Mercury had with Chiron on Monday, this vibration is more about receptiveness. How do we make ourselves open to solving a problem or healing a wound? To me, this is sort of like if you're sick and you know you need to rest. The receptive thing then is to lay down and take the rest while you need it, rather than pretending you don't need it and pushing through a day of being miserable and unrested. So especially around Wednesday, if you're feeling like you need to do something to solve a problem, to get the rest, to get the healing that you need, to mend the fences that you need, definitely be open to the thing that you know will help. Appropriately, late on Wednesday night, the moon will move into Libra, which is ruled by Venus. And that's another invitation to be open and receptive. Our personal life focus shifts to partnerships in our lives and really whether we're giving as good as we get. So we're examining the balance in those relationships and doing what we can to bring it back into balance where it isn't. On Thursday, the 5th, Mercury strikes a square to Uranus. It's a bump in the road, friends. The materials you wanted are not available when you want them. Uranus is stationary, remember, so it's a little more powerful than usual. You may find yourself asking for help when you realize you can't pull something together on your own. And the sun makes an adjustment to Jupiter on Thursday as well. This is us in our public-facing lives, work, social, and civic, that where we're really Aquarius influenced right now, trying to keep the big picture in mind as we go about our individual efforts in the world. Jupiter in Cancer is making it rain abundantly somewhere, friends. Can we adjust our plan to include somehow appreciating the treasure or the blessing on offer? With those two things happening together, it's sort of like you can't always get what you want, but you can get something that is good. So keep your eyes open for a greater blessing or just something that's going to work instead of the thing that you thought you could get your hands on. And then on Friday, Mercury moves on into Pisces. Mercury is not at its best in Pisces. We can find it a challenge to say what we mean. I have Mercury in Pisces in my personal chart, so I'm speaking a little bit personally here. I can find it a challenge to say what I mean or understand fully even what I want to say. Sometimes I don't even know what I think until it comes out of my mouth. It's not as easy to make plans because of indirect communications, and it's a little like a Mercury retrograde in that I would offer guidance for us all to make sure that we know where we're going before we head out. Even if that means having conversations that are a little uncomfortable, okay? Just ask the question. If you don't know the answer, hey, where are we going? Exactly what are we doing here? What are your intentions with me? Just make sure you have that clarity before you get into situations, okay? The moon will move on into Scorpio on Saturday the 7th, and our personal life focus then turns within. We take Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to do our own personal authenticity check. When we give of ourselves, are we doing it for the right reason? Would we feel ashamed if we had to admit our base motivation? Is there anything really wrong with being alone? These are the kind of questions we ask ourselves when the moon is in Scorpio, and they're appropriate. The deep dive, the soul searching, that's what it's all about. And then on Sunday, Venus is going to strike the same square to Uranus that Mercury did on Friday. More mix-ups and confusion about the availability of material resources. You can't always get what you want, like I said, but if you try sometimes. Okay, friends, that's the astrology for the week. Thank you so much for joining me today to get that. And I'm just going to vamp a little bit here while Jennifer comes back to us so that we can talk about our favorite aspects of the week. It's not as active this week as it has been in past weeks, so it feels just a little bit like a break, but it does still feel pretty active, and it feels like we might have some stop and go some stop and go energy here with this Uranus stationing direct, and these other planets doing things with Uranus.